GM servers. Welcome to a basic tutorial on how OpenServ works and a quick overview of the platform. So without further ado, let's get started. Once you've signed up on platform.openserv.ai, this is the home page or the interface that you come across. Assuming that it's a new account, you won't see any workflows as such, but once you start making new workflows, it's going to show up out here, and there's some quick actions out here. You can go ahead and start a new workflow or explore the agents that are available as public agents, or also private agents once you make them under your account. And then we've got an explore template section for exploring some standard templates. First, let's look into the left section out here with a bunch of different categories, starting with workflows. Workflows are the most basic component of everything that you do on OpenServ. Workflows or workspaces are essentially the main canvas on which you add all kinds of different agents and connect them together and make them carry out specific tasks. In simpler words, that's the main playground where you play around with all the different agents that you have added to the workspace and give them specific tasks and make them function in a specific manner based on the specific task you have in mind for each of these agents. We'll look into more of it as we go through some examples later on. Within workflows, we have got 4 separate sections, and the first one would be the create workflow section, where there are 2 ways in which you can start a new workflow or a workspace. The first way would be by quickly entering a prompt of what exactly you want to build. It makes sure that it's pretty descriptive and specific in terms of the functionalities that you intend to include for your use case. We have also got some example templates out here. For instance, VO3 video generation, where you can just enter like a prompt or a description of the kind of video you want to generate, and that gets passed over to the VO3 agent and it generates the video for you. Further, another way of creating a workflow would be to just start blank, start from the most basic setup. We'll look into that later on. We've also got the your workflows section out here, where all the workflows that you have made will show up out here. And then we've got the template section, which has got 2 other categories within it, where there's a normal template section, which shows all the public templates available to users created by different community members and also by OpenServ. If you want to use a template, you can just click on use template and create a workspace that completely clones the exact task descriptions and all the parameters that has been set by the template creator. So this would come quite handy eventually, as there are a bunch of cool templates that will be open sourced by OpenServ and also by community contributions that will also be token gated through X402, which also means that template owners can also monetize their templates quite easily. Further, there's a my template section that just shows all the templates that you have created under your account. And then there's a your template section for a more in-depth overview of what your template does in terms of the agents that are part of the template, and then the goal and name. And you can also submit it for review to make it live or to make it available to the public and further in the future monetize it. Moving forward, we've got the agent section. In terms of the way OpenServ works, we've got the workspace, and then there are a bunch of different agents that are part of the workspace, and based on the specific use case you have in mind, you can choose the agents that you want to add to your workspace and assign each of these agents specific tasks and make them work together in a way that makes sense for your use case. So here under the browse agent section, we can see all these different agents that have been that are either hosted by OpenServ and publicly available for any user to add to their workspace. We have added bunch of different agents based on community requests, whether it's research agent or VO3 video generation agent and podcast creator, etc. So there are a plethora of agents covering a wide variety of Web 2 and also Web 3 use cases. We've got polymarket data analysis and Hyperliquid chart analysis and trading agents that you can easily drop into your workspace and play around with. And also agents that are made by the community members and approved by us also show up out here. And there's a My Agent section for all the agents that you've created under your account. They can either be public or private. And then we have got an Agent Builder section over here where you can pick a model in terms of the base model for the agent that you're building. This is a complete no-code agent builder for picking a model and then giving it a name and giving it a system prompt so that you can easily build a specialized purpose-specific agent by picking the model of your choice and defining a system prompt and the capabilities it's capable of, and drop it into your whole workflow setup wherever you think it makes sense to have a specialized agent that does a specific task after either getting a specific input from another agent or just by itself, and then forwarding the specific output based on your specific task description to the next agent. So this is a no-code agent builder where you can define the system prompt and the capabilities and save it and add it to your workspace and play around with it. Further, we have the add agent section, which is a very important section for the developers of specialized agents. So this is focused on the coding community as such, as in the developers who want to build specialized agents with the help of our TypeScript SDK or REST API, where they can give a specific name and also completely self-host it on their end. So they have complete control over the specialized agent they have built, and give it an endpoint and briefly describe its capabilities so that the other agents part of the workspace are aware of the capabilities of this agent that you have added to the workspace. And further on code, you can pretty much created liberty to customize the agent with different tool calls and different external APIs and give it specific interesting capabilities based on whatever the kind of specialized agent that you're trying to build as an agent developer. And once you have built it and hosted it as a simple Node.js HTTP server, it will of course have a live URL that'll get exposed based on wherever you're hosting, for instance, Railway, or even if you're hosting on AWS or Google Cloud, you'll have to expose it to the internet so that it has a specific public URL that can be interacted with, and you drop it in here. And after that, once you save, you can go to the Your Agent section and click on Details. And if it says external, that means that's a self-hosted agent created by you as the developer, and you can click on Details. And initially, it's going to ask you to create a secret key so that once the secret key is created, you can drop into your agent code wherever you've deployed, so that when the platform, when your specialized agent is added to the platform is aware that it is this specific agent created by this agent developer, and it has all these specific capabilities, and the workspace can only interact with the agent to the public URL with the specific tools that you have exposed and made public through the description of the capabilities. So you have complete control over the agent that you create, and you self-host it, but you use the secret key to just enable the workspace and other agents that are part of the workspace to be able to talk to your agent and do the tool calls based on your discretion. And further, you can also edit the endpoint URL. This in case you're testing it locally, you can just use the ngrok URL, or if it's live on prod, you can just drop in the prod URL out here. And like any other agent, you can always add the other external integrations like Twitter or Telegram, so that the agent can leverage Twitter or Telegram APIs to call specific functions based on the connections you have added. And there's also a knowledge file section for each of these agents where you can upload specific context files so that you can provide extra specialized context for each of your agents in terms of the specific use case you're targeting the agent for. Moving forward, we've got the connect section, under which we've got the integrations. The integrations are a list of integrations, a mix of Web 2 and Web 3 integrations, where we have got things like Google Calendar, Google Drive, Google Mail, Slack, etc. And we've also got things like Twitter and Telegram, which would be relevant in the context of Web 3. In terms of how you can add a new connection, for Twitter, for example, you can click on add new connection and it's going to open the Twitter pop-up where you can authorize your Twitter account that is signed up on this browser. And once that's done, it gets added as a connection out here and it's accessible on any of the workspaces you create. Further, for the Telegram integration, you can just go ahead on Telegram, like you would create any other bot. You'll have to go to bot father on Telegram and then create the new bot, take the bot token and drop it in here and save it. And once you've done that, it shows up out here as a Telegram bot connection. And further, you can leverage the Telegram bot API to interact with that bot. Moving forward, we've got the MCP server section where you can either pick up one of the already present MCP server examples, or you can add your own MCP server. At the moment, we support SSE and HTTP Classic. The HTTP streaming support will be added soon. So you can give a name and description and drop in the MCP server URL as long as it follows the MCP standards. You can just drop it in here, and then if there are any headers, you can add them and click on connect, and that should add it over here as an MCP. You can build specialized MCPs for your specific use cases and connect it to the platform so that all the agents part of the workspace have access to this MCP server and can call the specific tools you have defined under the MCP spec. An example of how I made an example MCP server and just dropped in the SSE URL, exposing it locally, and saved it out here. I will also be sharing this specific template so you can build on top of it and add whatever functions you want to using the basic template that follows these standards. Additionally, you can also add any SSE compatible MCP server. For instance, in this case, I had added the official Cloudflare Docs MCP, which supports SSE, and you can just make use of all the tools that they expose through the MCP server on in your workspaces through the agents. Moving forward, we've got the secrets section. This is a very crucial section for mainly the Web3 use cases where there are API keys, or also possibly for REST API calling use cases where there are API keys associated with the API call you're trying to make. In such cases, you'll have to securely manage your private key, like let's say the agent wallet private key or the API key that you want to link. You can proceed to the secret section and add a new secret, give it a name and description and the secret value, and drop it in here. We make sure that we follow the best practices to securely store the secrets and to ensure that it's securely accessed just by the agent, but we would still suggest you to just make a new agent wallet and test around and play around until it's beta with small amount of funds, and test and carry out and let the agent carry out specific trades for you, and eventually, of course, we can move to full support, and then you could further expand to larger amounts of funds. All right, moving forward, let's look at, we've got the credits and docs sections, which are essentially what they suggest they are, credits of OpenServ credits, and then the docs section, it just leads to our official documentation website. Now let's quickly look into how we can make a new workspace and just the key components of how the workspace looks. All right, so let's quickly create a blank workflow. And there we go. This is the main canvas that you would interact with, and this is where the main action happens, with multiple agents working together to carry out the task that you have defined for each of them, and then passing down data between each other, and then sending it back to your application, or pulling in external data, calling APIs, etc. So to begin with, we can give the workspace a specific name, and further we've got this important section out here, starting with the design and run mode. The design mode is pretty much what it means. The design mode is pretty much what it means. Essentially, it's the mode in which you design the workflow and define the task for different agents, and basically set your whole agentic workflow or workflows together, and then define the characteristics, etc. And further, we've got the run mode. Once you've set up your agentic workflow, you can move to the run mode. Of course, right now we don't have any workflow, but yeah, once you move to the run mode, that's where you can start triggering the workflows and make the agents carry out the tasks that you've defined. Further, we've got the session section, where, in simple words, every new task trigger leads to the creation of a new session. A very quick example would be if there are multiple users sending requests concurrently. Let's say there are 2 users sending requests, just so that each of these requests are carried out, are processed separately. A new session is made for each of these requests, and the specific task is executed for each of these requests. Further, we've got the advanced settings, where we've got group trigger events. This is just so that you enable multiple events from the same session to just run in a single workflow, and that in simple words means enabling the ability to be able to concurrently run multiple events within the same session in a workflow. And further, we've got concurrency settings, where you can define the maximum number of sessions that run concurrently, and the rest of the requests get queued and then get executed according to the order they've arrived. And further, we've got maximum number of tasks per session, the maximum number of the same concurrency per session, and also per workspace. So in terms of per session, the default is 1, and in terms of per workspace, it's 3. And you can decide based on your specific workload or your specific use case. You can decide a favorable or sensible number. Further, we've got the timeout settings, where you can define the max timeout in seconds. The default would be 60 minutes. So this is for the whole workflow, which would be a complex setup. 60 minutes is generally enough for most of the complex workflows. And further, we've got each task specific timeout, which in by default it's 10 minutes, which is again more than enough for a specific task within a larger workflow. And then we've got max retry attempts, which is 3 by default. Further, we've got the integration and triggers section, which is a crucial section here. Now, as we've already gone through the integration section with the Web 2 and Web 3 integrations, now we've got a few other, so the same integrations show up out here. And also, if you have already added any connections to the integrations, they also show up over here as connected integrations. In my case, I've added the Twitter integration and the Telegram bot integration, hence they show up out here. You can also give specific names by renaming them. And further, we've got the triggers. The triggers are a crucial aspect for the workspace. They are the means through which you can execute or trigger a specific workflow that you have set up. We've got the manual trigger, which is mainly used for testing, so that you can just quickly pass an input and then trigger the workflow. But in some cases where you just want to execute a specific workflow for a specific number of times and just get the output, you can just use the manual trigger once you switch to run mode, of course. And then we've got the cron trigger. This is pretty useful for no code use cases where you want to run a specific, let's say a scraping task, or let's say a posting task, or a research task, every specific interval. You can just go ahead, define something like every hour and like a time zone. You can be specific about that based on a use case, and just define the cron trigger. And once you've done that, it clearly tells you these are the intervals across which the next triggers are gonna take place, and it's gonna stick to that specific schedule you have defined. Further, we've got the webhook trigger, which is a crucial trigger for developers or code specific use cases where you want to trigger it remotely through a backend or a front end of your application for very specific use cases. You can also send specific details or instructions in the body of the webhook trigger. It's a classic post request to the webhook URL. Further, we have got a special trigger over here, which is the Telegram trigger. Once you've added a Telegram connection to under the connections and integrations, a special trigger shows up linked to the Telegram bot integration that you have just added. And what does this do? Well, what a Telegram trigger does is essentially it leverages the Telegram bot API and keeps listening as long as it's enabled, and in run mode, it keeps listening for any message sent to the Telegram bot on Telegram by any user, and for every single message trigger that has been triggered by different users, it runs the workflow that you connect this Telegram trigger to, and it creates separate sessions for each of these users based on their ID or specific criteria, and it executes the task. For instance, it could be as simple as just reply to the request sent by the user, and it could just be an LLM response based on the system prompt and the instructions you have defined. And this can further be extended to all kinds of use cases based on your specific Telegram bot purpose or use case. For instance, you want to serve video generation requests, or you want to respond to specific commands, or you want to just respond to specific natural language requests. You can all enable that by just connecting this Telegram trigger to subsequent task nodes and further defining the task description very clearly. And then in terms of the connected integrations, we've got Twitter and Telegram. So these will be dropped into the task nodes based on if you want to leverage the integration by leveraging in terms of Twitter, it would be the Twitter API, and for Telegram bot, it would be the Telegram bot API. And we've got all the different integrations listed out here. You can use them if you want to. And here we've got the MCP connections. They have been added to your specific account, and you can go ahead and again drag and drop it like any other integration onto a specific node if you want that specific task node or agent to be able to access the tools offered by the MCP. Further, here we've got the input and output files. The output and uploaded files. The output file is basically any file that's been generated by an agent through a specific task. It could be a PDF file, it could be an image, it could be a video, etc. All of the files that are uploaded or generated within a workspace gets automatically indexed, and every single agent that's part of the workspace has complete rack context of it. Hence, you don't have to deal with any of the vector engineering or context engineering or vector search setup. It gets automatically indexed. The same goes for uploaded files. You can just go ahead and upload an MD file or a text file with specific instructions, or let's say a research paper. All the agents would have specific context of it, and you can just, and just with natural language, you can just be like, go to that specific file and fetch me specific details, and the agent would automatically go ahead and index through that and carry out the specific task. Perfect. And further, some other key parts over here would be the undo and redo button, which if you mess up, it's just the undo and redo button that you can leverage. And then we've got the auto layout for just getting back to the main setup, and also the fit to screen so that you can just zoom out and fit everything. And then on the bottom right, we've got another crucial section, which is the agent section. Whenever you make a new blank workflow, initially, the Better Project Manager is the only agent that's part of the workflow. You can go ahead and talk to it and define or ask questions like, I want to generate a VO3 video. Is there any agent for it? You can ask questions like this, be very descriptive and direct, and the Bear Project Manager is going to reply with specific context-specific replies based on your question. And you can just go ahead and ask it to add an agent if you want to, and it would. Once you approve, there you go. The agent has been added. Further, another way to add agents is just by clicking on the plus button out here and searching for the agent you want to add. For instance, polymarket agent, and there you go. It gets added to the workspace. You can also ask the Better Project Manager to set up specific workflows based on your requirements. In this case, it just automatically figured out that I want to use the VO 3.1 agent and just set it up. Now, coming to the final components out here, on the top right, we've got Save as Template. This is for being able to save a specific setup of the workspace with all the specific settings or all the specific task descriptions as it is, and then sharing to other folks, maybe make it a public template or just using it for yourself for future reference with a specific snapshot of the setup of the workflow. Further, we've got top-up credits, just for just topping up credits if you run out of it, and further a create MCP server option where you can make the workspace and MCP server and talk to it and also index through the files that might have been generated and get context of how the workspace works. And in the future, we're also adding support for being able to monetizing using X402 and A204. And then we've got the key section or the key option out here to add task. The add task has some key fields out here, with this description being the most important field, and further we've got the input and output fields. The input field is just either going to take input from a previous node or a trigger, or in a lot of cases it's going to be no input. So generally you can just type out none. And then we've got the output definition, where you can define the specific format of definition output. Then we've got the output definition section, where you can define the specific format of output that you expect. It could either be in plain text or it could be in a structured format by following a specific schema that you define. For instance, you can just define things like ID, maybe a response field, and then give an input title, and then further giving a title and also a very descriptive description, so that the agents that are generating these outputs are aware of the kind of data that must be put into these fields. And then we have got the assignee section, where you can assign the specific task to a specific agent. Just click on fill the rest from description, and input can still be none. You can change it if you want to, and just go ahead and create a task. Once you do that, it's probably similar to what the agent just made for you. It's more descriptive, made by Project Manager, but yes, the way it works in principle is the same. So this was a quick walkthrough of the basics. We will soon jump into more examples and templates and even code walkthroughs. Thank you very much.